And what is going on with it, guys? So this is day 3 of my power being out, so instead of bringing you a video from my room, I am outside of UCF right now. But I really wanted to come out with this Jaguars versus Texans recap video since it was such a dominant win, and this is the manner I'm going to do it, so it's better late than never, right? So let's get it.
It's a foot race. Robinson and Browner, and it's Robinson who wins it. Touchdown Jacksonville. His 14th win. Boyles with top, looking deep for Robinson.
So this Jaguars-Texans game was really a game that shocked the whole NFL world, because this game seemed like it was really a game that was perfectly set up for Houston Texans to really dominate. Just because coming off of Hurricane Harvey, doing a home opener against the two-time defending AFC South champions, and J.J. Watt raising over $10 million, he just seemed like he was going to be an extremely motivated person going into this game. And if you would have told me before this game that one of these teams was going to have 10 sacks and the other was going to have 0 sacks, I would have thought the Jaguars were going to be in for a long day. But it turned out to be on the exact opposite side, as the Jaguars really just controlled the trenches the whole entire game, and they were causing havoc on the defensive line, getting so much pressure on a quarterback. When they weren't getting sacks, they were getting tons of pressure on him. The secondary was doing very well defending, their wide receivers and whatnot. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line manhandled their D-line. The passing game, the aerial attack was very quiet, as Allen Hurns was a leading receiver with I think only like 42 yards. Blake Boyles was 11 for 21, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, played that game manager role. And also with the run game, we had Leonard Fournette have 100 yards rushing and Chris Ivory about 42 yards rushing. And the most exciting thing about this game was the fact that the Jaguars won in a manner that Doug Marrone and Tom Colvin, they won in the manner that they've been saying they want to win all offseason. They want to have a nasty, physical, run-first kind of team and be able to have a defense to really carry them and basically take the ball out of Boyles' hands as much as possible. And that's what happened this game. Boyles really did not have to do much at all, and we were able to beat them handedly. Now let's go ahead and talk about this game by position group. Now the defensive line was obviously just massacred their offensive line. It was very obvious that their left tackle Dwayne Brown was out, and throughout the whole game they were basically benching players because due to performance, and also there were tons of injuries that went on. And this D-line pretty much worked their offensive line. Calais Campbell, who's been in the NFL for 8 or 9 years, he came into his first game as a Jaguar and broke a personal sack record. He got more sacks this game on the Jaguars than he did at any point in his career on Arizona. And in the first half, he broke a Jaguars single game sack record. So that was crazy. And then Yannick Ngakoue and Dante Fowler really complemented each other nicely. They both recovered each other's strip sacks. Yannick got 1 strip sack, Dante Fowler returned for a touchdown. Dante Fowler got a strip sack, Yannick Ngakoue recovered, and it was a really good game from both of the edge rushers. And our third down nickel defense, when it comes to like third and long situations, it seems pretty deadly on our D-line. We have Yannick Ngakoue and Dante Fowler at both defensive end spots, Malik Jackson and Calais Campbell on the insides, and they had no answer at all for that, and they made both Tom Savage and Deshaun Watson look very poor. And one player that people aren't really talking about on the D-line that had a really good game, I thought, was Avery Jones. Avery Jones is a freaking beast. He's one of the most underrated Jaguars this team has seen the last few years. He was in there causing run stops, and he's mostly known for his run stopping ability at nose tackle, but he was also wreaking havoc in the pass rush. So tomorrow I'm going to come out with a D-line film room video, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But I'm going to move out to the linebackers. Now when you go to the linebacker position, both Telvin and Miles Jack both had really good games. Puz was kind of invisible, but they did let up a couple, passes to the tight ends, but they both, I thought, played pretty disciplined defense, and I like what I saw out of them. When you go to the secondary, especially the cornerback position, Aaron Colvin and Jada Ramsey absolutely shut their guys down. They targeted Jalen Ramsey twice. One time he was covering DeAndre Hopkins, which Ramsey forced an incompletion, and another time they threw it to Braxton Miller, who got one target this game, and that target was against Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen Ramsey literally shoved him out of bounds. And if he would have came back inbounds that play, he would have gotten a penalty. So Jalen Ramsey completely shut out Braxton Miller. Aaron Colvin completely blanketed whatever guy he was covering. The only kind of mishaps that we had on the secondary position was AJ Boye. AJ Boye started the game really good against DeAndre Hopkins, but after a while it just showed that DeAndre Hopkins was a little bit too physical for AJ Boye, as he was drawing all kinds of pass interference and holding calls. I really don't know why they weren't trying to put Ramsey on Hopkins. It must have been a pre-agreed upon thing or something like that, but I just thought that the matchup between Jalen Ramsey and Hopkins was way better, especially with how physical Jalen Ramsey is. But Barry Church and Tashawn Gibson also both had pretty good games. It was interesting because both of them are playing all kinds of different roles. Like I saw last year, Tashawn Gibson was really only playing that center field free safety position, but I saw him out there, you know, covering wide receivers basically in like press coverage a couple times. So he's really all over the place. Barry Church is a very good tackler. He's a very good leader for our team. Those are some really good acquisitions for our team. But overall, this defense absolutely dominated. They held this team to only 7 points offensively after letting Deshaun Watson basically run down the field on them at the first drive of the second half. You know, a lot of that was due to some poor penalties, but they still let him run down the field. But the turnover margin, they caused 4 turnovers this game compared to the Jaguars 0 on offense. So they had a +4 turnover differential. I told y'all going into this game that was going to be a key of the game, was to win the turnover battle, and that's what happened. The Jaguars were able to force turnovers in that, and the quarterback Blake Boyles wasn't giving up any turnovers on the flip side of things. And while we're on the subject of Blake Boyles, we'll go ahead and talk about him a little bit. Like I said earlier, he went 11 for 21 with about, I think it was like 150 passing yards. It just was a game manager game for Bortles. Now, he didn't do absolutely terrible. There were some throws that, there was really only one throw that I really didn't like, that he threw into some danger in the end zone. But other than that, he made some good throws. He missed on a couple throws, but Blake Boyles did what the Jaguars want him to do, and that's not turn the ball over. And that's what he did. He had some nice completions, so it was an overall decent day for Blake. Now let's talk about that running back LF27, Fournette. Leonard Fournette, man. He had a awesome day as the first day as a Jaguar. Now, he showed things in a running game as he rushed for 100 yards, but he also showed a lot of stuff in the passing game, as this guy was able to, once you get him out in space, he's extremely dangerous. And he also caused a lot of misses. You know, a lot of people say he's not agile, but I remember 2 times where he completely shook these players, because Leonard Fournette, the only way you're going to tackle him is to go low. You got to go at his ankles or low on him, because if you go high, you are going to get absolutely demolished. And a lot of things I saw where defensive backs knew that, so they were trying to go low on him, but he had such a quick sidestep that he was able to pretty much juke out a couple of guys completely out of their shoes. Now, Leonard Fournette is the new identity of our offense. You know, I can't stress that enough. We are going to win games with him, and he is just such an X factor to be able to have back there. But the blocking for him, you got to give a lot of credit to that offensive line. The offensive line was able to open up all kinds of holes for Leonard Fournette, and also help out in the pass game where, you know, they held Blake Boyles Blake Boyles didn't get sacked a single time. And a lot of that's credit to the offensive line. But it was just crazy with the offensive line how they were able to just shut down 3 all-pro players with J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, and Whitney Merciless. I mean, J.J. Watt was mostly lined up on Parnell and A.J. Cann the whole time, and they were pretty much shutting him down. And Clowney versus Cam Robinson, that looked easy for Cam Robinson. I couldn't believe how they were able to manhandle these guys, especially after the preseason they were come off of, where we were all worried about the state of our offensive line, as this is the same offensive line that was struggling against the Panthers' backup defensive line. Like, I don't know where the hell this performance came from. But with this offensive line, a lot of times in a run game, it wasn't like they were opening up gaping holes, but with Leonard Fournette, if you can just give him a little bit of a crease, he's the kind of dude that will be able to carry somebody 3, 4, 5 yards after contact. So if you just let him get past that line of scrimmage, he's going to do some damage. Now with our wide receiver position, it was obviously a very quiet day for the group, but the most concerning bit of news is that Allen Robinson has torn his ACL, which absolutely sucks because we were hearing nothing but great things out of him. Allen Robinson is a great receiver. I really hope this isn't his last game in a Jaguar uniform, but I really don't think it is. But man, it's really, you can't underestimate the amount of this blow. Now, Marquise Lee is going to have to step up and be the #1 wide receiver. And, you know, Hearn's also going to have to step up. But we're also going to have other guys like Keelan Cole and now Aurelius Ben. And Aurelius Ben is a player who is really only leaned on for special teams, but now he is going to have to make an impact in the passing game. So we did see him go in there. We did see him make a good first down catch. But this unit, especially for the next 8 weeks, once we get Westbrook in from the IR, hopefully after about 8 weeks, he should be able to contribute. But it's really a crappy situation with the Jaguars wide receiving position. But next man up, as we all know, it's a pretty good position for the Jaguars. But do not underestimate the amount of effect on Allen Robinson being out. Now with that said, that about wraps things up. Now this game was won in the trenches. The Jaguars defensive line got 10 sacks. They got just so many quarterback pressures. A lot of these quarterback pressures led to turnovers, as they got four turnovers on defense. That's just such a massive improvement from what's been happening in years past, where the defense has really not been able to turn the ball over. It was a really good sign that we were able to get a pass rush with 4 people in there as opposed to blitzing a bunch of people. But it was just a really well played game all around the football. Jaguars dominated the Texans to move on to 1-0, the only 1-0 team in the AFC South right now. You know, 1-0 within our division. So now we are going to take on the Titans at home this Sunday. I'll be at that game, super pumped. Let's keep this thing going, man. Let's go 2-0 in the AFC South. Really, the sky's the limit with this team. We have a great roster. Still a questionable quarterback. We have a great roster. So we can definitely do a lot of damage within the NFL this year. But with all that said, this is UCF Jaguar with GenJag.com. I'm out.
Your wildest dream, did you ever envision 10 sacks, 4 turnovers in one game?
You know, I don't know if I dream in my wildest dreams. You know, most of the time I'm thinking about, you know, my wife in my wildest dreams.